Hey, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to 2026. Wild that we are in another year, and it's New Year's Day. So hopefully this finds you spending time with family. Hopefully this finds you just still off, not doing church things, and just taking that breather and that opportunity to kind of chill, like we had talked about 2 weeks ago. With reflecting on the previous year. And so with this being New Year's, we actually decided to not do a theme for January yet. We'll start that next week. However, we did, when we started kind of talking about it, we were like, we need to do a New Year's episode. What are we going to do it on? Well, for the love, we're not going to do another episode from another podcast on New Year's resolutions, because if we're honest, New Year's resolutions hardly ever stick. If you're like me, they last about 2 days and then I give up on them. Not something that we wanted to do. And so with that, we just kind of had the idea of, what happens every new year. But what if we change the idea from like being excited about the new year and like every year being excited about this new year and what all these new things, and just focus on the same God. So this episode is New Year, same God.
But in that realm, we also want to answer your most burning questions, and we know one of them that you might be thinking is, didn't Brent David wear this same outfit last episode and the episode before that? Do they ever change? Same God.
No.
Same Brent, same David, same God. New Year.
And you can tell that we've been recording episodes for too long.
I don't have a filter anymore, guys.
So with that, though, everybody's talking about change. Everybody's talking about new habits, new vibes, the new year, new me phrase, all those things. But what if the best news is that someone doesn't change?
Yeah. Come on.
And so maybe we actually need to have something more stable than something that gives more pressure going into this year.
Hold on. Say it again.
Maybe we need something that is more stable this year than something that brings more pressure.
All right, well, it's been real. We'll see you guys on the next episode. That was really good.
Yeah, so Brent. We'll be back next week.
Holy crap, that was good. Not to say that the other things that we will say is good, but that was like, let that marinate. That was good.
Yeah. So, but what are we looking at when we talk about that? We're talking through the dynamic of, like, we have constant change in our lives. We have jobs, we have kids, we have families, we have the rise and fall of our economy, the fall and rise of our economy, different markets, different things. We have finances. We have all these different things that are in this constant flux of changing. And then you look at the weight of constant change, even with students, and you look at the emotional and mental load that teenagers are carrying with changing friend groups, expectations to keep up academically, their bodies changing, because that's a thing. Social media trends constantly shifting, the pressure to reinvent themselves and be this new version of themselves every year. It's like, maybe we're told to change, or maybe we're told things should change. We should change, but deep down we're craving something that's unshakable. Deep down we're craving and we're wanting to focus on the aspect of the thing that does not change. I think it's Hebrews 13:8. Correct me if I'm wrong, David. Hebrews 13:8 that says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus doesn't change. And he sets the theological anchor that we root ourselves in. And so maybe we need to be focusing on that. His love, his grace, his presence are constants in our life. And maybe that is what we need to be focusing on this year. And maybe that's what we need to be modeling as we move into this year. Instead of asking our kids to what are their New Year's resolutions and what are they going to strive to do different this year and all this stuff. Instead of adding to the chaos that's already on them, maybe we need to do what I said at the beginning, which is just work on something that actually is more stable than more pressure. Maybe our response to students at the beginning of this year is, hey, I know that the world is telling you that you need to accomplish and do all these things in this year, but God's saying, hey, I'm still here. I'm still me. I'm not changing. Rest in me. So, with that being said, David, what does it mean that God doesn't change?
That's something that I have consistently wrestled with, because I think you hit it on the head earlier. Just by like, instead of focusing on being this new me, this changed, better version of myself, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with trying to make yourself better. But when we apply that to the chaos and the pressure that we already have, that we already face, just because there's a new number at the end of our year doesn't mean that all of the pressures of the past go away with this new slate that we think that we get. And yes, we know that each day is new and presents its new challenges and new things and stuff like that. It's a new day, it's a new opportunity to get the things that we've got wrong maybe less wrong and a little more right, because sometimes it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But instead of adding more pressure, more stress, more things, more weight, more things that we have to get done, and stuff like that, to be able to simply rest in something that does not change. I mean, it's crazy to think it's like every day we think we have to do something different. Every month we must new slate. Every year there's all these new challenges and stuff, and yet God has been the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if you think about that time, just our world being however, whatever you subscribe to, but like the earth has at least been 2026 years old. So for 2026 years, God is still the same in year one as he is in year 2026 and year 3000, or however long this goes. And being able to rest in something that's truly anchoring in an ever changing, ever pressure, climate, news, political pressures, social pressures, job pressures, life pressures. Like, there's a theme happening here. There's a lot of pressure for us to be and say and talk and look and dress and be this thing that we're supposed to be, and yet God just says, rest in me. Your yoke is, what is it? Oh my gosh, I haven't quoted it so long.
My yoke is easy, my burden is light.
And it's like, why is it that the simplest tasks are so hard to accomplish? So I'm going to flip it back to you. Why is it that the simplest tasks are so hard to execute?
Well, and I think the mindset of it is like, I think a lot of times we put it on ourselves. We make it harder than it needs to be. And this is a conversation I had yesterday, chaplaining at the school that I chaplain. One of the ladies was like, "Do you ever go home?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm home. I'm home 4 days a week by 3 at the latest." And they were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I'm home. It's a priority of mine." It's like, but you're a youth pastor, you're a worship pastor, you're a chaplain. You said you do graphic and web design. You said that you're involved in this, and this. But like, how? And it's just like, I prioritize my time. I'm not where I don't need to be. And I make the most of the time that I'm present where I am. So I think a lot of times this falls into the mindset and the conversations of busyness that we had right at the end of this past year. I think sometimes busyness is thrown on us. I think sometimes busyness is an expectation, but I think we need to be working towards remodeling that idea. and granted, I say this with a grain of salt because some of y'all work in churches, and I've been in them, where busyness is an expectation, and they expect busyness to be like, busyness is very, very closely related to your worth. If you're not up there doing things, why are we paying you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in all reality, what most people don't understand is the more that I'm away from work, the better that I do my work, if that makes sense. Because when I'm here, I'm fresh. When I'm here, I know what I'm doing. When I'm here, I'm available. But then I also make myself available in the moments that I'm not.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen, but I have the mental capacity to be there and be present regardless of what time it is for the day, because I'm not just sitting in an office twiddling my thumbs because I have nothing to do, but my church requires me to be here till 5. So I understand that there's some dynamics that you can't avoid, but maybe this is a conversation to start reorganizing those priorities or finding ways to utilize the time that you have to be there differently. Good example. My last church, granted it's almost been 10 years ago, my last church required me to be in the office from 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday. And that did not take off time for when I went to youth, like sports activities or anything else. All that was just extra that I was expected to do too. I went back to school and I got a degree with the time that I had. I went back to school and got a master's degree with the time that I had, because it was something that I knew that I probably needed to do, and I was going to utilize the time that I was already had. And so most of the time, that master's degree or whatever you go for is just on your own time extra, which means that your family time, which is all that extra time, is gone. So prioritizing. I went to them and I was like, hey, you're expecting me to be here. I'm going to be honest. I have about 10 to 12 hours of actual work for my job. Relationships are my job. I can't do relationships while they're in school because I can't just go up there and hang out while they're in classes and stuff like that. But you still require me to be here. So I'm going to go back to school to better myself. And I'm going to use the office time to do that because my family's more important than that. Maybe not in that exact terminology or that exact function, but I very, very much utilized the opportunity and utilized the time that I had. And my church was fine with it. So I think a lot of times, like, busyness is our worth. We need to change that dynamic. And if you are living in that dynamic right now, maybe you just start having conversations that could potentially turn the tide. I work in a church now where I'm not required to be here. They want my presence to be known. They're like, you do work here, so make sure that you're here. But like, if you have other things to do, go do them. I chaplain for a full day every week. I don't even come to church. So I think there's healthy dynamics in all of them. I would say that I'm by far a more emotionally healthy and stable youth pastor here than I've ever been at any other church, and I put the least amount of time office hours in.
Crazy to think about. It's more so it comes down to being more effective with your time. It's not about how much time you're putting into it. It's about what you're doing with that time that you have. And yes, we all know this, and this is wisdom. This is nothing, like, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not, but at the end of the day, like, if I put 90 hours of a week into something and don't do any of them effective, like, and none of those hours are effective, then I've just spent a lot of time doing nothing. But if I put 35 hours, 40 hours into incredibly intentional, focused productivity, that's way better. It doesn't matter how much you put into it. And that was my biggest problem for the longest time, is it was like, there really isn't enough time for me to do all the things that I need to do. And so I would try to force as much as I could into a day, And all I was doing was burning myself out on in every single level. And it's like, what can I do today effectively? And can I be okay with allowing something to wait until tomorrow or next week, and not putting it off, but just saying, today I've poured what I have, and tomorrow will be better because I will be refreshed and renewed, and I've had time with my family and all of those things, so that I can do that thing better tomorrow. I can do it today, but it won't be as good.
And once again, it's also just priorities. It's the factor of understanding that we serve an unchanging God and he doesn't change. And what that means is his character doesn't change. His goodness, love, justice, his promises don't expire. His presence doesn't turn into a seasonal event. You don't get his presence only at Christmas and Easter. His plan is always proactive, not reactive. Like, think on that for a second. God's plan is always before you do what you do. It's never after. And his love is not performance or calendar based. You don't have to have office hours for God to love you. You don't have to have staggering job expectations for God to love you. You don't have to be a successful youth pastor for God to love you. You don't have to be a youth pastor for God to love you. His love isn't performance-based. It's not calendar-based either. He doesn't just love you on Sundays. Talking about nuggets, this is not mine, but I read it somewhere. It says, God's not waiting for the new year to give you mercy. He gave it to you yesterday. So maybe we need to work and part of prioritizing our time and prioritizing our effectiveness is realizing whose voice actually matters. And I say that, I mean, tongue in cheek a little bit. Obviously, your job, your pastor matters. If he's your direct overseer, like what he says and what he tells you to do is important. So I'm not saying don't listen, but I'm saying at the end of the day, what instills and creates your value and your worth. If your pastor is disappointed with you for how you handle a situation, do you go home and harp on that disappointment? Or do you use that as an opportunity to reflect and be like, yeah, well, that probably wasn't the best opportunity. Like I did probably mess that up, but at the end of the day, move on. God loves me. I'm still him. I'm still who God called to be here, and I have to own up to this and move on. So, 3 ways that you can utilize or see God's unchanging nature as you start your year this year. When you practice, when you walk through these practical ways, God's unchanging nature will help you a lot. So if you focus on God's unchanging nature, it helps you fight anxiety. God is already steady. You don't have to hold everything together. It builds confidence. You don't enter the year alone in your own strength. You know that God's there. The last episode we did before this one was reflecting on all of the things that God's done. If you haven't done it, do it. And then it slows the pressure to perform. God isn't asking for perfection. He's asking for trust. I think I've shared this story on the podcast before, and it's a little off topic, but I think it fits this point. I think sometimes we have this idea that like God is asking for us to be perfect in response, perfect in effort, perfect in everything. And sometimes our perfection doesn't go according to his plan. A couple years ago, our pastor was helping out a person that just emailed him. He's like, hey, I used to be an alcoholic. My wife died of alcohol poisoning, and it woke me up. I have a job. It's going to be good paying. I don't have an apartment. I don't have anything to furnish the apartment, and I don't have a car to get to. And so, long story short, we help him. We get him an apartment. We furnish the apartment. And then the pastor gets up on Sunday. My pastor gets up on Sunday and he goes, hey, we need a car for this person. Without a doubt, one of the most clear voices I've ever heard, clear times I've ever heard in my entire life. God goes, yours. And I go,
you got close to the microphone as you said that.
Yeah. I said, nope, no way. And I heard it again, yours. And so I was like, I typed it out on my phone, showed it to my wife. My wife's like, okay. I was like, that's not the response I was wanting.
Thing, dude.
Like, you're supposed to tell me no.
Such a hard
like,
man for that.
And so she's just like, okay. So afterwards, I go tell my pastor. He's like, hey, that's awesome. Pray about it. Give me an answer this evening. Make sure that it's good. So, okay. Well, I mean, we know it's supposed to happen. So, like, we'll pray about it, but we'll let you know later. Long story short, couple awesome things happen in the process. Obedience pays off. We have all these different opportunities to see blessing from the church having from people donating money to buy a car, and the church ending up paying us a little bit of money for my car, to my grandma believing in what we were doing and donating money to us buying a new car, to all this different stuff. We get like textbook, like this sounds like this is going to be like a movie, God's provision, God's obedience kind of thing like that. Literally go oil change, tire rotate, give the car to the dude. The next day it totals. Something in the engine breaks and it's undrivable. Not fixable. Totaled. So, how do you think my desire for perfection and my desire for obedience felt after I felt God was telling me to do this? I did all these magical things, give this car to this guy, and it breaks the next day. I tried to give the money back to the church, and my pastor said something that stuck with me. He said, we didn't pay you for your car. We paid you in response to your obedience. I learned a very valuable lesson that day, that trusting God doesn't always mean that God's on our plan, and we don't always know God's plan, but it worked out for both of us that day. The dude still got a car. It saved me from having a broken car with no money to afford a new car. And so God worked a double miracle out of a situation that could have been me just turning away and saying no and not acting in obedience, and then my car breaking the next week.
So I guess the story, I mean, I'm like, gosh, it's such a cool story, but like, what happened with the guy? Like, was he able to fix the car? Like, or
no, so we actually had had like 3 families that missed the week that he asked for money. That were all out on vacation or all something. And so they came the next week. They all donated money, and we bought the guy a brand new car.
Let's go, dude. Wow.
Not brand new, but new to him.
Yeah.
Used car.
It doesn't matter. He's his car.
But
so
still, he got a car.
You got a car. Oprah. Everybody got a car.
But I learned something that has become a lifeline in my life, and that's that Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is real. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. There's more to that verse, but that's what stuck. God said, hey, trust me. Don't trust your understanding. And I learned real quick, okay, God, like I trusted, but I trusted on my own understanding. I thought this was going to work out a certain way. It was going to be happy-go-lucky. All this like gold confetti was going to shoot out. Like everything did not go any way, shape, or form like I thought it was going to. But God was glorified in the process, and God made a miracle out of something that I never expected.
Yeah.
So, God just trust is what he's asking for.
Yeah.
He's asking for trust and he's asking for obedience. He's not asking for you to know the plan. And when we understand that God isn't asking for perfection, it slows the pressure to perform.
Yeah. I mean, and I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it because I think people know by now Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 are absolutely my life verse. And I don't say that for a fad. I say that because it was my life verse before I knew what a life verse was. It made so much sense to me the first time I ever read it. I was 6 years old. I could tell you where I was when I read Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 for the first time. I could tell you exactly where I was in Amarillo, Texas. It's at Rosa's Cafe, of all places, reading my Bible, eating a tortilla with queso on it. And I read it, and it blew my absolute mind. And I heard God very, very clearly tell me, trust and obey, I will make a way. And it sounds so like, typical, like churchy, but it resonated with me at 6 years old, and it's resonating with me at nearly 36 years old. That God, all he simply asks us to do is to trust him, to do the things he asks, and God will make a way. Never said it would be easy.
Yeah.
Never said it would even be hard. Sometimes it's not even hard. Sometimes it is hard, but he will make a way.
Yeah.
And it may not make sense. It may blow your mind. It may blow other people's mind. But that might be the testimony that allows someone else to go, okay, God, I hear you. Someone may have just heard Brent share that story and go, okay, God, I hear you. I'm ready to obey. And it might be scary and it might be a total life change. But whatever it might be, you just got to trust that God's going to do what God's going to do. And trust that he's got you. He's got you. He's got your family. He's got the situation. Maybe you've done something really bad and you don't think you can ever get through it. Maybe you have a student that has done something really, really bad and your whole church said condemn them, and God is telling you, no, you need to stand in the gap for that person and keep showing them me, whatever the situation might be, trust him, obey him. God's going to make a way. I promise. That's the consistency we're talking about here. Consistently trust him, consistently obey him. And I think that God will consistently show up.
Yeah. Same God every day, new mercies every day. Even though God doesn't change, his mercies are new, his guidance is fresh, his work in your life evolves, his invitation grows with you. Acts 17 or Acts 19, I don't remember off the top of my head, says God's not served by human hands as if he needed anything. God doesn't live in man-made temples. It's a privilege to be obedient to God. It is a privilege to be used by God. You don't need a new you. You just need a renewed trust in the same God. So, what does this mean for your everyday life? Practical for you, but also practical for you to take to students if you want to take it. Easy, doable questions or thoughts that are steps. Where did I see God's faithfulness last year? Reflect, like we talked about our last episode. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Choose one area where you'll trust him more deeply. Not resolve to improve, but trust him differently. Not, I'm going to work on this year. I'm going to vow to do better. Do it. Trust God differently.
I think it comes down to this. If your goal feels too insurmountable, then your goal is too big. Scale back.
Yeah. Or other dynamic of it is if you think your goal is too big, trust God more.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but I understand that like trust builds with you. So if you're struggling with trust, you probably do want to start with something smaller. Great book, Project Pearl. I'm not going to go into details, but it's a great story about trust and faith, about a missionary that smuggled Bibles into China. Really, really crazy story. but Project Pearl, you can buy it on Amazon. Start your year Start your year with surrender instead of striving. This year, don't worry about doing better. Worry about being who you are called to be. Okay? Whatever this year brings, you don't face it alone. The God who carried you through every moment last year is the same God that's carrying you into this one. New year, same God. I feel like we've hit it. I feel like this is a good stopping point. But with that being said, we love you guys. Looking forward to the new year. Looking forward to this new opportunity to spend another year with y'all on the podcast. This is like 235 or something of that nature. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing and doing all the things you do. Thank you for sharing. Keep doing that. Share it with your friends on social media at Talk Student Men, on Instagram or Facebook. Give us comments, give us feedback on the podcast. We know you are listening. We're grateful for your listening. But one of the things, and we've said this multiple times, that we don't really hear we don't really see is we really don't see much feedback or comments from you all. So we'd love to hear it. If you are listening and you enjoyed a show, we'd love to hear it. Or if you want us to go in a certain direction, you can reach out as well. Find us on Instagram or Facebook. Or you can find us on socials with at Talk Student Men, like I said, or podcast at studentministryconversations.org. But we hope that you have a great start to this year. We hope that your plans for the year are going well. And just one reminder of the fact that your plans don't have to be perfect. God's plan already is. Yeah. Love you guys. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week.